I wanted to make a quick video today about my disc golf cart and specifically the upper deck and the rack that it sits on. All right, as you can see here, there's a couple of dowels that go the entire length through the cart. And so if I turn this around and take the discs out, you can see in here that there's a couple of dowels that allows for that upper rack to have discs sit on it, just like this one. Okay, and so to do that, we're going to take you out to the garage and show you kind of some specifics that you need to do and some tips that might help when making your upper rack for your disc golf cart. All right, we made it out to the garage and a couple of measurements I want to show you here that might be helpful as you make an upper rack for your disc golf cart is, first off, from the bottom of my foam, if I measure this to the top of my first dowel here, you can see that's right at about 7.5 inches, okay? And if I go on this side where it's a little bit taller, I think it's more like 7.25. Okay, so somewhere in that range between 7.25 and 7.5 is the distance that you want from the bottom of your cart to the top of those sets of dowels that you'll put in. Okay, another measurement that might be handy for you, I'll bring you in close here, is from the inside to the inside between those dowels, you can see is right at 2.5 inches. Or if you would prefer, we can go from the outside to the outside, and that's at 3.5 inches, which makes sense because those are 1/2 inch dowels. All right, and then one other tip that I want to show you here before I show you actually how to drill these in to the sides of your cart is if you take a disc and set it against the side of your cart, okay? Mine's made out of just plywood. If you have plastic or something, you might need to use a Sharpie, but I'm gonna use a pencil here to kind of outline this disc, all right, all the way around. And I did this before I had my dowels put in place. In fact, if I zoom in here, I don't know if you can see this or not, if it'll focus. Yeah, there it is. You can see the curve that I made when I first made this cart, all right? Kind of curves around this way. In fact, if I go up, you can see that the first dowel actually hits on that line. And that makes sense because my disc, when it's resting on the side here and all my discs on the bottom rack, this first dowel serves as a backstop so that none of the discs can like fall into the back of the cart, okay? Even the ones in the middle, if you have a stack of those, they all rest right against this first set. Okay, one other thing I would just mention is for that top set, make sure that when you set your discs in there that you have clearance on the top, okay? If they're too tight, so some of my larger mid-ranges that have a larger diameter, it's a little bit tight getting those out, especially when I have the whole bottom and top rack full. All right, now obviously I already have this done here on my cart, but I'm gonna take kind of these mock-ups and pretend this is like one of the sides, and I made an identical piece that would serve as like my other side, okay? So when you're putting the dowels in, again, once you have those measurements in the right spot, like I just talked about, you wanna put your two sides together and make sure that they are exactly the same, okay? And I'm gonna clamp mine just like this here. And I'll clamp another one to my workbench over here. And let's say I had my dowel and it was gonna go right there. All right, so you're gonna take a 1/2 inch, so if you have a 1/2 inch dowel, you're gonna take a 1/2 inch drill bit and go ahead and drill right through both of those. All right, once your hole is drilled, go ahead and make sure that your dowel fits through it. You should be able to snugly, you might have to give it a twist, go all the way through. You do not want this very loose at all. All right, I can feel mine going in, which is good. It's nice and snug. And there you can see it's all the way through. And this gives me identical pieces on either side. And again, I'd have probably 2 of these dowels. You need to drill 2 holes, obviously, so your disc can sit on it. This is how you would do it, so it is identical on either side for your cart, okay? One other thing that I will show you now is, let's say this represents, again, one of the sides of my cart and the other side, and then I'll have 2 of these going through. What I like to do to make sure that this doesn't ever come apart is drill a hole right here, leave maybe a 1/2 inch, an inch or so coming out, and then drill a hole through this and just put a screw in there so it just can't come apart, and it'll always be stuck. It may or may not stay this snug the whole time that you own it. All right, so I have these really small screws you can see right here. They're not very big at all, so I'm just gonna take a really small bit. I think this is a 5/32 bit that is plenty small for this screw. And then what I'll do is just go ahead and drill a small hole right there at the end. You might have to push this back in so you have room to work with, of course. Again, do what you gotta do to get a small hole there at the end of your dowel. All right, so then take one of your screws just like this and go ahead and just start it. You don't want to go all the way through and risk splitting your dowel. Just start it, and again, there can be a little bit coming out the end, just like that. Again, this is to prevent this coming apart, so it might be good if there's a little bit sticking out so that your dowel doesn't go all the way through and your disc fly everywhere. We do not want that. All right, so once that is in place, then let me bring you guys back down here, and you can see exactly on my cart how I did this. Okay, so here's the end of it right here. You can see the screw that I have in there. I also painted mine, so there's probably plenty of paint on here. But again, this isn't as snug as it used to be. I'm able to turn it pretty easily, right? But that screw keeps it in place so that dowel doesn't fall off and my discs aren't gonna spill everywhere. Hey guys, if you found this helpful, I know this was kind of for a specific audience, but please hit that like button. That helps this video spread to more people, and maybe we can see some more custom-made carts out there on the course. See you in the next one.